to get started? All right, it's recording. Yay, that was fast. So we're going to just go ahead and get started. So good evening and welcome to Parent University Math Focus Night. We are super excited that you're here. We're excited to partner with you this year to support your student in math. My name is Tanya Smith, and I am one of the assistant principals here at the elementary grade band. I represent math and science. And tonight I am joined by our math administrator, Miss Jennifer Tuck Rogers, and our instructional coach, Miss Catherine Stevens. Together, we hope that we can share some practical tips for helping you help your student be successful in math this year. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to pass it on over to Miss Tuck Rogers to get us going.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to start us off this evening talking about something very important, and that is your math attitude. I want you to take a moment and reflect about how you felt about math when you were a child. Some of you may have loved it. Some of you may have hated it. Some of you may be a little indifferent, or so. And that's okay. But what is most important is that with our children that we are exuding math positivity. Because how we feel about math will have an impact on how our students feel about math. Even if they're struggling, we want to remain positive so that they remain positive and they continue to try to do their best. We know in life, we are going to have things that go really well. We're going to have things that are hard, and we're all going to make mistakes. But it is very important that we know and we make sure that our children know it's okay not to know, but it is not okay to not try. We want to keep trying, and we want to make sure that you're exuding that positivity, that math positivity at home with your students as well. What better way to promote math positivity than to make math fun? All right, math does not always have to be paper pencil. Sometimes we want to push it a little outside of the box, and we want to incorporate math when we're having fun with our children. If you're old, like they say, it's old school, but if you're old school and you like board games and puzzles and dominoes, pull those out and play those things with your children. Have them add, have them subtract, have them multiply, have them divide. You can even have them create word problems about the games that you're playing. If you're not really a board game type of person, no worries, because here at GCA, we do have tons of online games that can all be found in your students' Clever accounts. And here I have some examples of a few of those math games that you can find in your child's Clever account. We have Splash Math, we have Extra Math, and this is a good one to work on your fact fluency, and we know that's very important for students 3rd through 5th grade. And of course, we have a student favorite, ABC, where they house tons of fun math games. All right, so what about if you want to take it outside? Can you do math activities outside? Of course, you can do math outside. You can incorporate math with jumping rope, counting, skip counting, hopscotch when you're counting stairs, and there are tons of other things that you can do to incorporate math. One of my favorite things that I used to do when I was a classroom teacher with some of my students is we used to go outside and take sidewalk chalk, and we used to do math problems on the sidewalk chalk. And then we would draw or do word problems and pictures that go with those. Just something to get you outside and other than paper and pencil. So don't forget that you can incorporate math outside as well. What about in the kitchen? We know some parents, we love cooking, and we have some students that love cooking as well. Well, guess what? Math is in the kitchen as well. So if you're baking, what are some things that you can do? Have your child measure the ingredients. Let them estimate how much of something will be needed to make cookies or biscuits. Place the cookies on the tray in an array. You can calculate how many cookies are needed for a certain recipe, double the recipe, half the recipe. All of these things are ways that your child can help you and you can help them incorporate math in a regular and fun way at home. Most importantly, I want you to remember math is everywhere. All right. It is very important that our students are practicing and utilizing the math skills that they're going to see in their everyday lives, such as counting money, paying bills, balancing a checkbook, make change. When you're out at a restaurant, let your kids help you figure out how much to leave for the tip. If you're gardening, let them help you plan and plant a garden, build a bookshelf, and of course, not just baking, but you can let them help cook dinner and use some of those same measuring strategies when you're cooking dinner as well. What about on vacation? You can let them help you calculate how much time it will take to drive on or get to your destination. These are just some ways that you can help incorporate math in a fun way at home with your child. Now, I'm going to pass it to Mrs. Smith to talk to you a little bit more about some more math strategies.
All right, everyone. So if you've spent any time near your student while they're in math class, you've probably heard their math teacher say, "How did you find your answer?" Well, how do you know that's right? Prove that it's right. So in math, we are always asking our students to explain their answers and explain their reasoning behind their thoughts and their thinking. We like for them to prove their accuracy. This opens up so many opportunities for students to engage in that academic discussion and really, I'm proving my answer. Well, who agrees with me? Who doesn't agree? What did you get for that answer? So we want you to also be involved in that as the parent. And you're like, well, how can I do that? Well, this is exactly how you can do that. Here are some examples of ways that you can be familiar with and aware of what your child is learning in class. I know when my daughter was a student here at GCA, I would ask her most often every afternoon, I would be like, well, what did you learn today in math? Right? I have to ask about what you're learning in math. And I would say, well, show me. Show me what you learned. You're not only getting, you're finding out what they're learning in class, but what you're doing is helping to solidify that in the student's mind. When they vocalize and they share with you what they've learned, they're solidifying their learning and making their learning experience even deeper. So these are examples of notebooks. Your child might have their math journal that's just a composition notebook. It may just be a binder with paper in it. It may be a folder with just loose leaf paper. Doesn't matter. I've even told my students before, don't tell me you don't have some kind of paper in your house. I know your mama and daddy get bills in the mail. You've got white envelopes. Flip it over and let's use it for showing our work. So the important thing is we're constantly asking our students to share with us what they've learned. We want to know that we want to be familiar with what they're learning and aware, and we want them to share with us so we can solidify their learning. All right. And now I'm going to pass it to Ms. Stevens, and she's going to share with us a little bit more about some of the programs and platforms we offer here at GCA.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I hope that you are having a wonderful evening with us so far. Again, my name is Catherine Stevens. I am the math instructional coach for the elementary grade band. It's my pleasure to be able to present to you today. So what we're going to be talking about just for a brief moment are the apps in Clever that your student would be able to access. Hopefully everyone knows by now how to get into Clever or how to log into Clever. Most of the students should have, or all of the students should have, a Google account, and they will use a single sign-on, And once they log on with that Google single sign-on, they'll be able to see pretty much every app that is relevant to the grade band. So if you want to take a screenshot with your phone of these apps that are listed here, that would be perfectly fine. We're not going to go over all of these for the sake of time. I am only going to talk about a few of those. So for just starting off, FLVS, we're going to talk about that because that's probably the one that the majority of you all are most familiar with. FLVS, you've seen this in your students' modules where they have module assignments. It can be where it's labeled a specific name and it may say 5.2 or lesson 5.3. Those are our FLVS modules, and we do use those, but there are so many others that we use in conjunction with that. A lot of the apps that we allow the students to log into are great for enrichment and also for remediation purposes. So let's talk about some of those. One of the ones that most of you all have seen, if you've been in class with your students or logged on with them, you're familiar with the iExcel, where the students are able to log on and do activities, and it takes them through whatever skills they may be having a little bit of difficulty with, but we can also use that for acceleration and give assignments to the students to help grow them in certain areas or further what they already know. You all also are probably familiar with the Progress Learning. Progress Learning is the same as USA Test Prep. They just changed the name. But a lot of teachers and students do love Progress Learning / USA Test Prep because the resources and the assessments that are in this platform are standards-based. So it's very much aligned to what we have here in Georgia for our Georgia Standards of Excellence, which is super important. So we normally use this, especially when it's close to testing time. You will see teachers really utilize this platform with students to really enhance their learning with the standards that we have for Georgia. And there's also one more that's not listed here that I would like to speak about, and that is Zearn. Zearn is a newer platform that elementary grade band has begun to use this year for math. And it is designed to take students sequentially through missions. And you may hear your students say, I have to complete my mission. I always like to tell, parents that a mission can be six or seven lessons. But the important aspect of Zearn is that it is designed to take your students sequentially through those missions. I'm sorry. Can you all hear me now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That may have been my Wi-Fi. Yes, Zearn can be found in Clever. So all of these apps can be found in Clever. So once your student signs on, they will be able to see it. Now, if you are missing or if you've tried to search for a particular platform and you do not see that in Clever, you're able to do, a help desk ticket to maybe get that added on for your student. But as I was saying, Zearn does go through the lessons. One mission can have several lessons, maybe 6, maybe 8 lessons in it. And so it's not necessarily designed to have the students, have the teacher assign the student a lesson. It's really designed for the student to go through it very naturally and plug in some of those learning gaps. And you will probably be hearing more and more about Zearn as the year progresses. It is fairly new to elementary grade band, but very beneficial. So these are just a few of the platforms that we have here in Clever. And hopefully you all will begin to hear more about them and learn more about them as the year progresses. I hope that you're having a wonderful school year, and I'm going to turn it back over to Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. And I apologize because I think the slides were loaded before the Zearn app was added. So I apologize about that. But that you can see in the chat box, it's ZEARN, and it can be found in Clever. So as Ms. Stevens said, you're probably going to learn more about that and be hearing more about that in the coming days. So what does this mean by you're invited? Well, it's exactly what it says. You are invited. Do you want to know and learn how your teachers are teaching your child the new math? I get it. I get it, friends. When I was in elementary school, We didn't quite do math the way that we do it now. So I understand. We want you to be involved, and we understand that you need to be knowledgeable about what you're helping your student with. So we invite you to drop on into the class, have a seat by your student, see what your teacher is teaching, help them model engagement for your students. So you are definitely invited into our classes. So where do we even, and you learned a little bit about this, or you heard a little bit about this in the curriculum night presentations. How can you stay informed about what your student should be learning this year? So your student is in third grade. Well, what does my student even need to know for third grade math? Well, I encourage you to explore our Georgia DOE standards of standards of excellence. Goodness, I can't even get it right. We've changed the name multiple times over the years. But the Miss Tuck Rogers actually just put the link in the chat box. So I encourage you to bookmark that link. You can explore that site, go directly to your student's grade level. And when you click on that link, you'll see on the left-hand side, you'll have to choose the subject or the content. And then you'll have to choose the grade band. So K to 5, of course, would be for our elementary grade band. Once you choose that, then you'll need to choose the specific grade. So if you're looking for third grade math, you can click over here. It'll be on the right-hand side, and you can choose third grade. And the first link under third grade will be the curriculum map. So it's going to tell you everything that your student should learn for third grade this year in math. And you can do that for all contents, not just math. But we do encourage you to explore that site. Find out what your students should be learning. It takes all of us working together to make this a successful year, right? So we are so glad that you came. We appreciate you spending some time with us this evening. We know that evenings are very full with events and family time. So we are super excited that you joined us. I would like to go ahead and share the attendance link in case you didn't get it in the main room. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. And then I am also going to drop a form in the chat. We do have a little bit of time, so we can take a few questions. But if you need to head out and you have something else you need to do this evening, I have put a form in the chat box, and you can just submit your questions through the form, and we will get back with you. We will disseminate the information if you need to speak with your child's math teacher. But most importantly, we want you to understand you are your student's biggest advocate. Let us know how we can help you. Reach out to your teachers. We are here to support you and your student, and we want you to have a wonderful, wonderful year. So if you need to head on out, you are welcome to go. We will take a few questions. If you have some questions, let me clear the feedback. And if you are a learning coach and you have a question you would like to ask us, math related, then you are free to raise your hand, and we will just take the questions in the order of the hands. We'll open the mics for you at that time, but otherwise, you are free to go, guys. We thank you again for coming. Hey, Terrence, I will give you the mic, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my question is there a way to let the math teachers and any other teacher, I think, because I'm the parent and learning coach, in the settings of the modules, if they could set the modules to where it says submit and submitted and viewed, it makes it so much easier for us to scan through to see what items the students have missed or doing or needs to be done. It's just like a lot of the teachers. I have 8 out of the main subjects because I have 2 students, one in middle school, one in elementary. And there's two teachers that have the settings set, but the other six, they don't. And then each teacher has a different style of how, I guess, how they have the modules arranged, and it could be kind of confusing sometimes. But that would make it so much simpler across the whole board. If everyone could do that, that would be so great because it makes it so much. You don't have to jump back and forth between grades and modules to see what the student did and didn't do. And it just says it right there. If they submitted the item, it says submitted. If they need to submit it, it says submit. Um, since then, no one was really asking questions. Not really a math question, but I just wanted to throw it in there because it would really
That's
help. I think learning
okay.
coaches. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's okay. We can certainly add that to the modules. And I think if I'm understanding you correctly, as the student works through the activities that are listed in the module, it'll check it off once it's done. So I think it's called, I can't remember the name. It's been a little bit since I've been in there, but it is the criteria for the completion. So what we can do is definitely take that into consideration. And just make a note. Of course, it would be more specific for math teachers. So if that's not something that you're dealing with in in the math module, it may be that you need to reach out to your other content teacher for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Hey, Shemaya, do you have a question? I've opened your mic, Shemaya, if you have a question that you need to ask us.
Didn't realize I had to click it. So I understand these questions are specific for math, and this year is my son's first year with GCA.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been, kind of getting used to all the platforms and everything, and kind of how my role as a learning coach is specific to his success in class. So my question is specifically, should I reach out to the teachers about, I would say, extra assignments, because he has AIM. So I was speaking with that teacher, and she was saying that we should check the modules for extra resources. But I noticed that in Clever they have, like, iExcel and iReady and these other applications that are in Clever. And I just wanted to know if, as a parent, do we have the authority or the capability to, allow them to go into those applications and do assignments if the teacher doesn't, assign any additional assignments? Or is that something that we need to be continuously, maybe getting approval from the teacher, I would guess, to do something like that? Or do we have open authorization to allow them to access those Clever apps outside of their class time?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Yes, you have access to those apps in Clever. Now, oftentimes teachers will assign specific lessons or videos or activities within those platforms and programs. However, you do have access to those. So you can have your student working in whatever they need to work in. If there's a specific skill, I might reach out to the math teacher and say, I'm noticing he's struggling in this area. Can you give me an idea of some things that he can work on in Clever? And they are happy to give you some ideas and some additional resources. But yes, absolutely. Clever apps are open for the student to work in outside of class time.
Okay, yes, because I was a little, unsure about that, and I just wanted to reach out to confirm since I had the opportunity, because I reached out to his math teacher, and I didn't get a very specific answer. She just said that they do assign, like you said, they do assign tasks in those applications. So I wasn't quite sure if that meant we were authorized or if it was specific for just classwork. So that
No,
definitely was
you are
clarification
able
on
to
it.
work. Yes, you are
Okay.
able to work. And what I'm going to do is put the link to the question form in the main chat box again. If you have
Okay.
a specific program or specific question you'd like for us to look into a little deeper, feel free to complete that form and put your question in there and we'll reach out to you.
Okay, yes. I think that was my only main concern with math, that I could think of, but I'll use the link if necessary. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I don't see any more hands up. Some of you might be just hanging out to listen if there are some questions that spark your interest. Thank you, Ms. Hollis. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. The requirements can be set in the modules. That's it. You can set requirements. And so that may be a question, Mr. Terrence, if you're still in here. Yes, you are. Maybe grab the link out of the chat and put that specific question in there, but teachers can set the requirements for the modules. And if it's one of our math teachers that we might just need to set the requirements for, we can look into that, okay? Thank you, Ms. Hollis. Any other questions? I don't want to keep you guys waiting and taking up your precious time this evening. So you are free to log out. And like I said, I hope you have a great evening, and we so enjoyed spending time with you. Hold on 1 second for me, Mr. Terrence. Let me check that out for you. Ms. Tuck Rogers, I just sent you a chat. Will you check that out for me?
Yes. Yes, it's working for me.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I'm not sure. It says you need permission. It should be open. Does anybody know what we might need to do? Mr. Terrence is unable to access the form. I wonder if he needs to be logged in possibly to his students.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I think that's probably it.
I bet that's what it is. Mr. Terrence, if you could log in to your parent account or your student's GCA account, you should be able to access the form that way. So I tell you what we can do. If you want to, let's see. I'll write it down, and I can actually write it down to send that to you. But yeah, you just should be able to do it if you're if you want to send me in a private chat, Mr. Terrence, your student's first name, last initial in a private chat, then I can get that form link sent to you, because you're not going to be able to access it unless you're in your parent GCA account or your student account.